The snow started sometime in the night. I didn't hear it come. I woke up around 5 and looked out the bedroom window, and the yard was white. The cedars were loaded down. The woodpile was covered. That particular quiet that only comes with new snow was everywhere. That hush, like the world had put a hand on its own chest and breathed out slowly. I made my coffee. I built the fire up from last night's coals, and I sat in my chair by the window and watched the snow come down in the last of the dark. And I thought, I've seen this maybe 60 times, maybe 60 Maine winters of waking up to new snow. And it still does something to me, something quiet and good. I'm 82 years old. My name is Walter. My wife Helen died 7 years ago. My children are grown and gone and doing well, both of them. Most of my old friends are in the ground. And today, by this fire, with the snow coming down outside, I want to share something I've been putting together for a while. 13 things I know now that I wish I'd known sooner. 13 lessons from 82 years of a working life, a marriage, a family, losses, mistakes, and whatever grace found its way in between. I won't call these wisdom. Wisdom is a word I don't trust myself to use. But they're true. They're what I've found the hard way over a very long time. If you'll sit with me by this fire for a while, here they are. The first lesson is this: nobody is coming to teach you how to live. I waited for a long time for someone to show me. My father died when I was 23, before he could tell me what he knew. Harold, the man I apprenticed under in the shop, taught me carpentry, real, useful, lasting things. But nobody sat me down and said, "Walter, here is how a man builds a life. Here is how you stay married through the hard years. Here is what you say to your children when they're afraid and you don't know the answer. Here is what to do when the person you love is dying and you don't know how to be in the room." I waited for that lesson for decades. It didn't come. What I've learned is, it doesn't come. Not as a lesson. It comes disguised as experience, and you have to be paying attention or you'll miss it. It comes as a loss that teaches you something you couldn't have learned any other way. It comes as a mistake you make and finally sit with instead of running from. It comes in a conversation at the kitchen table with your wife on an ordinary Wednesday that you don't know is important until you're thinking about it 20 years later. Nobody teaches you how to live. Life teaches you how to live, if you let it. The only thing between you and the lesson is your willingness to stay in the room when it gets uncomfortable. That was my problem for a long time. I left the room, went to the shop, kept moving, kept my head down, kept the work going. The lesson was in the room, and I wasn't. I learned to stay. Late, but I learned. The second lesson: presence is not the same as showing up. For most of my working years, I confused these two things. I showed up. I was there. I was physically in the house most evenings, at the supper table most nights, at the family gatherings that mattered. I showed up, but I wasn't always present. There's a difference. Showing up means your body is in the room. Presence means your attention is in the room. And for a lot of years, my attention was somewhere else. On the job that wasn't finished. On the material I hadn't ordered. On the argument I'd had with the customer 2 days before. I'd be sitting at the table with Helen and the children, and I'd be 1,000 miles away inside my own head, and I'd nod when nodding seemed called for, and I'd answer when answering seemed called for, but I wasn't there. Helen noticed. She never made a scene about it, but I'd see her sometimes watching me across the table with an expression I didn't know how to name. I know now what it was. It was the look of a woman watching someone she loved be absent in front of her. I got better at this after she died. Not because I learned something she didn't know, because there was nobody left to be absent from. The house was empty, and the absence taught me, finally, what presence was, what it felt like when it was gone, what I'd had all those years at the kitchen table that I hadn't valued enough to pay attention to. Don't wait for the table to be empty. Be in the room you're actually in. That's the lesson. The third lesson. The things you're most ashamed of are the things that will connect you to other people, if you let them. This took me a long time to believe. Most of my life, I operated on the opposite principle. I hid the parts of me that were small or wrong or ashamed. I presented the version of myself that had done the right things, worked hard, provided, kept the roof on. The respectable version. And the respectable version kept people at arm's length. Not on purpose, but when you only show the good parts, other people can only show you their good parts. The conversation stays on the surface. Nobody gets any closer. What changed this for me was a conversation I had with David in 2019. He'd called on a Sunday afternoon, the way he does, and he was going through something hard, a difficult patch with one of his children, something he was ashamed of, something he didn't know how to handle. And he started talking around it, the way we do when we're ashamed of something, hinting at it, not quite saying it. And I could feel him struggling, and I did something I'd never quite done before. I told him about the Christmas of 1983, the night I came home at midnight because I'd put the Henderson job before my family, and Helen had wrapped all the presents alone, and my children had gone to bed without their father on Christmas Eve. I told him the true version, how I knew what I was doing when I was doing it, and I did it anyway. How I've carried it for 40 years. He got quiet on the phone, and then he said, "Pop, I didn't know you'd done things like that. I thought it was just me. I thought it was just me." That's the thing the shame keeps you from knowing, that other people have done the same things, that the thing you're most embarrassed by is the thing that makes you most human. That the admission of the wrong thing is the door that lets someone in. I should have opened more of those doors, with David, with Susan, with Helen when she was alive. I'm making up for lost time now. The fourth lesson. A marriage is not a destination, it's a practice. Helen and I were married for 54 years. I don't tell people that as an accomplishment. I tell it as a fact that contains 54 years of difficulty and joy, and ordinariness, and the occasional crisis, and 10,000 evenings at the kitchen table, and some years that were better than others, and some that were not good at all. Around 1985, I've mentioned this before in other conversations, Helen and I went through a hard stretch. We were both in our 40s. The children were teenagers. I was working too much. Something had gone cold between us, the way a room goes cold when the fire isn't tended. Helen told me she was thinking of asking me to leave for a while. I didn't know it had gotten that bad. I thought I'd just been busy. What we did, what saved the marriage, was small, unglamorous. We started eating supper together again, without the newspaper, without the television. We started talking at the kitchen table the way we'd talked when we were first married and didn't have anything yet, and talking was what we did with the evenings. We did it badly at first, stiffly, like two people learning to walk again after being off their feet. But we did it. The marriage came back. Not to what it had been, to something different, something that knew the hard years and had stayed, something with more weight to it, more reality. Not the marriage of two young people who hadn't been tested, the marriage of two people who'd been tested and had chosen again. That choosing again is the practice. Every hard year is not a problem to be solved. It's the practice. It's the marriage doing the work it has to do to become what it's supposed to be. If your marriage is in a hard year right now, that might be what's happening. Not a failure, a practice, an opportunity for the choosing again. The fifth lesson. Your children will not remember what you taught them. They'll remember how you made them feel. I spent a lot of years trying to teach my children things. Carpentry, responsibility, the value of working hard, the importance of keeping your word. All of those things are true and worth knowing. But when David called me to talk about his own children, what he wants for them, what he worries about, what he hopes, the things he talks about aren't the lessons I taught him. They're the feelings he remembers. He remembers the particular smell of my shop. He remembers the Saturday mornings I made pancakes when Helen slept in. He remembers the time I drove 4 hours in the snow to help him move into his first apartment, and we worked in the cold for 6 hours and then ate terrible diner food at midnight and drove home. He doesn't mention the things I told him. He mentions the things we did, the things that left a mark because they felt like something, like warmth, like safety, like a father who came. What I didn't give him enough of was the feeling of being seen, of being interesting to me as a person, not just as my son. I asked about his grades. I didn't ask much about what he was thinking about, what he wondered about, what scared him. I missed a lot of that. But what he remembers, it turns out, is enough. The pancakes are enough. The drive in the snow is enough. Even the presence, imperfect, distracted, mine, was enough. Your children are keeping score you don't have access to. Trust that the love found them. It usually does. I want to tell you something specific about Susan, because I think it matters here. Susan was my harder one, not because she was difficult, she wasn't, but because she was more sensitive than David, more tuned to the emotional temperature of a room, and I was not a man who was good at emotional temperature. I was a man who could tell you if the room was cold in the physical sense. The other kind of cold I often missed. There was a particular period when Susan was about 11 or 12 when she went quiet in a way I didn't understand. She'd been a talkative child, always following me around the shop, asking questions, interested in everything. And then she got quiet, and I put it down to the age. Growing up, I told myself, girls go through a phase. Helen knew it was something else. She tried to tell me. She said, "Walter, Susan needs more from you right now. She's comparing herself to other girls at school, and she's not feeling good about it, and she needs her father to make her feel seen." And I said, "I'll take her to the shop this weekend." I took her to the shop. We sanded a board together. I showed her how to use the spokeshave. She was polite about it, but I could tell it wasn't what she'd needed. I'd offered the thing I knew how to give instead of the thing she'd needed me to learn. What she needed was for me to ask her about her life, to ask what she was thinking about, to ask what it was like to be 11 at that school, in that time, to ask her in a way that meant I actually wanted to know and would listen to the answer and would stay in the conversation even if it made me uncomfortable. I didn't know how to do that then. I learned it, slowly, too late to do it for 11-year-old Susan. But I learned it in time to do it for the Susan who is 55 now, who calls me on Thursday evenings, who told me things in her 40s about her childhood that I hadn't known were true. She is generous with me, more generous than I deserve in certain ways. And the generosity tells me that the love did find her, even through all the imperfect delivery. It found her, and she kept it, and she grew into a woman who gives it back freely. That is the grace I didn't earn, and I'm grateful for every day. I had a temper when I was younger. Not violent, not the kind that broke things or scared people, but sharp. A short fuse, especially when I was tired or frustrated at work. I'd come home with a storm in me sometimes, and it would come out sideways. A harsh word, a door shut too hard, a coldness at the table that had nothing to do with Helen or the children, and everything to do with something that had happened at the job site. Helen had a patience for it that I didn't deserve. She'd give me an hour, just let me be in it, and then she'd come find me and she'd say, "Walter, what happened?" Not "what's wrong with you?" Not "why are you in such a mood?" What happened? As if she understood, before I did, that the anger was a symptom, that something underneath it had been hurt or scared or embarrassed. She was almost always right. I've used that question on myself for 40 years now. When I feel the anger starting up, I ask it, what happened? Not what's in front of me that's irritating me. What happened earlier? What am I scared of? What was said to me today that I haven't looked at yet? What did I need that I didn't get? Most of the time, the answer has nothing to do with what I'm angry about on the surface. The surface is just where the anger comes out. Underneath is where it lives. If you're angry at someone you love, ask what happened. Not to them, to yourself. First, to yourself. You might be surprised what you find. The 7th lesson. Asking for help is not weakness, but it took me until my 70s to believe it. I was raised by a father who didn't ask for help, who carried everything himself, quietly, until he couldn't carry it anymore. And then he died at 51 with a heart that had been overloaded for years. I took that from him, the not asking, the silent carrying. I'd struggle with something, a job that was too big, a worry that was keeping me up, a loneliness after Helen died that I didn't know what to do with, and I'd handled it alone, or try to, or pretend I was handling it when I wasn't. David saw it. He came up about a year after Helen died, and he found me in worse shape than I'd let on in our calls. The house was messy, I was thin, I wasn't sleeping well. He didn't say much. He just came in and made some coffee and sat down and said, "Pop, what do you need?" And I sat there for a minute, and then I said, "I don't know how to do this part." He nodded. He said, "I know. We'll figure it out." That was the beginning of asking, of saying, "I don't know how to do this part," and letting someone else help figure it out. My son is 58 years old. He is a better man than I was at his age in certain ways. One of them is that he knows how to ask for help. I think he learned it despite me, not from me, but I'm glad he learned it. Ask for help, from your children, from your friends, from whoever is standing there willing to ask what you need. The carrying alone is not strength. It's just loneliness with a better reputation. The 8th lesson. The people who are difficult to love are usually the ones most in need of it. My wife's sister Margaret married a man named Gerald who made every room he entered smaller. I've mentioned Gerald before, a man who had a gift for deflation, for taking the thing you were proud of and finding, in one sentence, the way to diminish it. I spent 40 years being defended against Gerald, keeping a wall up, giving him as little of myself as possible to work with, counting down the hours until the holiday was over. What I never did, and I'm not saying I should have done it, I'm just saying I never did, was wonder what had made him that way. What years had formed him into a man who could only feel large by making others feel small? What had been taken from him, or never given to him, that left him needing so much at other people's expense. I thought about it once, late, in my 70s, after Gerald had died and Margaret was alone. I visited Margaret for coffee, and she talked about Gerald in a way I'd never heard her talk about him. Not the dismissive Gerald of the holiday dinners. A frightened man. A man who'd grown up with a father who'd never once told him he was worth anything. A man who'd spent his whole life trying to build himself up because he'd started from nothing in that particular way, from no love, from no regard, from the opposite of what a child needs. I sat there and I listened, and I thought, I spent 40 years defending myself from a wounded man. I'm not saying you have to let difficult people hurt you. I'm saying they're usually hurting already. That knowledge doesn't fix everything, but it changes something in how you hold the difficulty. The 9th lesson. The small things you do every day are the life, not the big moments. I've had big moments. David's birth in November of 1967 in a hospital in Bangor in a snowstorm. The day Helen said yes. The day I finished this house, drove the last nail, and stood in the yard and looked at it and thought, I built that. There have been big moments, but the life wasn't in those moments. The life was in the Tuesday evenings, the ordinary Saturdays, the way the kitchen smelled at 6 in the morning when Helen was making coffee and I was putting on my work boots, the particular sound of the fire catching, the weight of a good piece of wood in my hands, ready to become something. Those small things, the repeated, unremarkable daily texture of a life, that's what the life was made of. And for too long, I treated them as the background, as the time between the important things, as the part you wait through to get to the next thing that matters. They were the thing that mattered, every one of them. Every ordinary Tuesday was a gift I didn't fully open. I open them now. I take the morning coffee seriously. I take the fire seriously. I take the light on the snow and the sound of the chickadee at the feeder and the smell of the shop and the voice of my son on the phone on Sunday afternoon seriously. Those are my life, what's left of it. I'm not going to spend them waiting for something bigger. There's a thing Helen used to do that I thought was slightly eccentric when she was alive, and that I now understand was the most intelligent practice I've ever seen. She kept a small notebook, green cover. I found it after she died in the cedar chest. I thought it was a diary. It wasn't. It was a list, just a list, item after item, going back years in her careful handwriting. Things she was grateful for. The lupins coming back in June. The smell of the house when the fire was going and bread was in the oven. The particular way David laughed when something surprised him. The first cup of coffee on a cold morning. A letter she'd gotten from her sister in Connecticut. A conversation she'd had with Susan that left her feeling hopeful. Small things. Almost all of them small. Some of them things that had happened 30 years before the last entry. She had been, quietly, all those years, making a record of the moments that were worth keeping, building a case for the life, proving to herself over and over in her own handwriting that the Tuesday evenings and the ordinary mornings and the unremarkable Saturdays had been full of something worth noticing. I've been doing the same thing, on a yellow legal pad in the kitchen drawer, for about 5 years now. Mine is messier. The handwriting is bigger, the way it gets when your eyes aren't what they were. But the practice is the same. Some days I write 2 things. Some days I write 7. And some days I open it and I read what I wrote on a bad day 2 months ago, and I see that even that day had something in it that was worth the writing down. And the reading of it does something to me that I can't quite explain. It makes the life feel larger than any single hard day. It makes the small things feel like what they are. which is the whole thing, the entire thing. I've done things I'm ashamed of. I've said things to people I loved that I can't unsay. I've made choices that cost other people something they shouldn't have had to pay. I've been selfish and cowardly and small on more occasions than I like to think about. For a long time, I let those things define me. The trial I mentioned in another conversation, the one that runs itself in the back of your mind, calling you to account for every wrong thing. I ran that trial for decades, finding myself guilty again and again. But at 82, I've come to understand something. The worst thing you've done is not the truest thing about you. It's one true thing among many true things. You are also the man who drove to Portland in the middle of the night when his son needed him. You are also the woman who sat with her mother through the dying. You are also the person who made one phone call that changed something for someone that you don't even remember making, but they do. You are the whole of it, not just the worst of it. I'm not asking you to let yourself off the hook for real wrongs. Real wrongs deserve real reckoning. But the reckoning should be proportionate. It shouldn't last longer than the crime. It shouldn't become the whole of who you are. You are more than the worst day. I am more than the worst day. We all are, if we let ourselves be. The 11th lesson. Time accelerates, and the only answer is to slow down. When I was 30, the years were long. A decade felt like a continent. I'd think about being 50, and it seemed impossibly far away. Now I'm 82, and the years go by the way October goes in Maine, golden for a moment, and then it's November. I'll have a conversation with David, and then I'll pick up the phone to call him and realize it's been 3 weeks since we talked, and I thought it was 4 days. Time accelerates as you get older. I don't know exactly why. I've heard explanations that each year is a smaller percentage of the total, but the experience of it is harder to describe than the math. It's the feeling of the years moving faster than you can hold them. The only thing I've found that slows it down is attention. Deliberate, specific attention to what's in front of you. When I sit at the kitchen table in the morning with my coffee and I look at the snow on the cedars and I let myself really see it, not glance at it, not register it, but actually look, time slows down. The moment gets large, and a morning made of looked-at moments is a longer morning than one you moved through without seeing. Helen was better at this than I was. She could stop in the middle of a walk and look at something small, a piece of lichen on a stone, a particular leaf, for a full minute. I'd be impatient. I'd want to keep moving. She'd say, "Walter, just look at it for a minute." I look now. I stop. I look at things for a full minute. It helps. The 12th lesson. Forgiveness is not for the other person. It's for you. I held a grudge for 11 years against a man who cheated me on a job in 1978. A contractor named Rivers from Brewer. I'd done good work for him. He paid me short and then disputed the rest. And after some back and forth, I took what I could get and moved on. But I didn't move on. I carried it. I'd mention it to Helen sometimes. She'd listen, and then she'd say, "Walter, that was 4 years ago, or 6 years ago, or 8 years ago." And I'd say, "That doesn't mean it wasn't wrong." And she'd say, "No, but it means you're the one still paying for it." I didn't understand what she meant until Rivers died in 1989. He died, and I read it in the paper, and I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not grief, just nothing. The 11 years of carrying the thing, and there was no resolution, no apology came, no justice arrived. He just died. And I was left holding the grudge with nobody to hand it back to. That was the moment I understood what Helen had been telling me. The grudge was never about Rivers. Rivers had stopped thinking about me probably within a month of our dispute. I was the only one carrying it. I'd been paying for his wrong with 11 years of my own energy. I put it down that day. Years late, but I put it down. Whatever you're carrying against someone, the person who wronged you, the friend who disappeared, the parent who didn't protect you, the employer who cheated you, you are the one paying the price for holding it, not them. They've moved on, or they've died, or they're living their life without a thought of your grudge. You're the one still at the counter, paying. You can put it down, not because they deserve forgiveness, because you deserve the freedom. The 13th lesson. And this is the one I want to end on, because it's the one that took me the longest and cost me the most and matters to me most now. The 13th lesson is this: love is a verb, and you have to keep doing it. Not the feeling of love, the doing of it. The feeling comes and goes. There were years in the middle of my marriage when I didn't feel the love the way I'd felt it when we were young. The feeling had gotten buried under work and worry and the ordinariness of days. But I kept doing it. I kept showing up. I kept coming home. I kept making the coffee and answering the phone and being in the room even when I didn't know what to do in the room. And the feeling came back. It always came back when I kept doing the doing. Helen used to say that love was less like a fire and more like a well. A fire you had to tend, keep feeding it, or it would go out. But a well was different. You'd dig it once, in the right place, with the right effort, and then it would refill itself, as long as you didn't walk away from it permanently. The water came back on its own, from somewhere underneath. She was right about most things. She was especially right about that. If you're in a long relationship, a marriage, a friendship, a family, there will be dry periods. Periods when the feeling is thin, when the other person seems far away, or when you seem far away to them, or when the connection that used to be easy is work. Keep doing the work. Keep calling. Keep showing up. Keep making the coffee and sitting at the table and being in the room. The well refills. I've seen it enough times to believe it. And if you're alone, if the person who was your well is gone, the way Helen is gone for me, you can still do the love. You can do it toward your children, toward your grandchildren, toward the neighbors and the old friends and the strangers who need somebody to be kind to them. You can do it toward the memory of the ones you've lost. I do it toward Helen still. Every lupine I tend in her garden, every green cup I fill with coffee in the morning, every conversation I have with Susan that Helen would have been glad to hear. Love is a verb. Keep doing it. Long past the feeling, long past the easy part. Keep doing it. The fire's down to coals. The snow has stopped outside. The world is white and quiet and still. I've shared 13 things. I don't know which one, if any, is the one you needed. I don't know your years or your losses or the particular corner of your life that's been troubling you. But I know this: 82 years is long enough to learn some things. And the things I've learned at a price I'd rather not have paid. If even one of them reaches you in time to save you some of the price, that's worth the talking. I don't know what your life looks like. I don't know what you've lost, or what you're still holding, or what you've been meaning to do and haven't done yet. But I know this: the fire is still going. The morning is still here. And whatever you've been putting off, the call, the apology, the kindness, the attention, the choosing again, there's still time. there's still time. I believe that until the last morning. I believe it still. And I want to say one quiet thing before I go. I don't know how much time I have left. The thumb aches. The knees speak to me on the stairs. February tests everything I have. But I am here. And being here, still making coffee, still lighting the fire, still talking to whoever is on the other side of this, that is not nothing. That is, in fact, everything. Don't wait for the list to be shorter, or the time to be better, or the grief to lift entirely before you start living the day you're in. This is the day, this fire, this morning, this cup. Start here. If anything I said today reached you, you can subscribe to walk with me a while longer. I read the comments. Tell me which of the 13 landed. Tell me which one you're still working on. I'd like to know. Take care of yourself. Stay in the room. Be in the day you're actually in. The fire's still going. I'll see you next time.